Yeah. So, welcome everyone. So it's the International Coaching Week 2024. We are here to talk about my adventures and sometimes misadventures with coaching. I wanted to do it for the benefit of possibly new coaches and young coaches that are there from all across the world. So, and possibly learning from experience of somebody who's already done it is sometimes the most amazing of learnings. So you're able to learn a lot more. You don't have to make the same mistake somebody else has done. So I wanted to give back to a community that's given me a lot. So I said, let me share my journey and possibly to inspire somebody. And that's the background behind making this. So in terms of coaching, I am a mentor coach. I have completed my PCC, and yeah, it took me about 363 days to finish my 500 hours of coaching experience, alongside with 125 hours of PCC training. And then, yeah, like I was saying before, I was an accidental coach. I never knew what coaching is, what coaching isn't before I came into this space. I come from an engineering background. So I did my engineering way back in 2014. From 2014 to around 2022, I worked in a German automotive company called Bosch. So I was part of the Indian entity here, and I was part of the software aspect. So I was busy writing software. I didn't know what coaching is. I didn't know what mentoring was. Possibly I also didn't know what therapy was at that point of time. And it was a very interesting space. So I call myself a poet first, an engineer later, then a coach right now. And I don't know what other transitions life will bring, and I'm just happy to go with the flow. And yeah, so in the engineering space, very early on in the engineering sector, I was exposed to different areas of life. So I was a volunteer lead. So I was leading a team of around 700 people across 5 years. We built it up as to 700. It was not 700 initially, but around 700 plus volunteers going to different schools in rural India, volunteering, teaching, sharing, bringing our experience, and also learning from the other side as much as we were able to learn. We were able to impart learning. So I was involved in those activities, and also, that was pre-COVID, and then 2020 COVID hit. And then in between, I'd actually taken a break for 1 year to get my poetry and stories actually out. So I'm a very passionate story writer and a poet. So I've penned around 7,000 plus poems, around 200 plus stories. So when I took this break, I thought I didn't know anything about the external world. I was a very in India we have this saying called a frog in the well, or a kupa manduka. So I was having that experience. I hardly knew anything on the outside world. So in that 1 year break, life completely changed, and I freelanced with around 20-25 companies as a content writer. And mind you, I'd never tried my luck in terms of writing content, but it almost became a natural aspect. I wrote about 150 to 170 blogs for an ambulance company in here. And that was a very quick pivoting point for me, saying, hey, I can do this and I can freelance for about 20 plus companies, create their content, experience different areas of life. And then I wanted to, stay in writing, but then software called me again. And then came COVID. So prior to that, I'd worked only with the CSR space, content writing, and then now software. So three poetry, software, and content writing. And then coaching was never on my radar. Then COVID happened. Everybody's network went home, but my network went global. It was a very strange phenomena. So I had 2 hours left every day that I didn't travel, 2.5 hours that I didn't have to travel to office and back. And those 2.5 hours became an experiential experiment in terms of meeting new people. So I started to meet new people across the world. It started from India, then went across to Germany, then Romania, then US, UK, Turkey, Poland. So different countries, Australia, so all across the world in different parts of this thing. And there in those 2 years, I started to work with diversity, equity, inclusion on say a personal volunteer basis. And there were teams across the world. So I did something very interesting. And DEI happened, then mentoring happened, then possibly I was mentoring different people across the world. There were few programs that I was a part of where I was sort of, becoming the connecting point for a lot of people, breaking silos, different organizations. So Bosch internal, almost around production units and other things combined, we had around, I think, 180 organizational entities. And I had, by the end of 2022, I had interfaces there with around 60 plus internal organizations. And it became clearer and clearer every day that my passion and my purpose lie with people. And I wanted to jump off the technical bandwagon. But it was very clear that I wanted to work with HR, L&D, OD, and those areas. But then life has a way of showing different things. And when I asked for a seat in the table, it was vehemently pushed away, saying, you are a tech guy, you can't be HR. We cannot accommodate you in the organization, etc., etc. So a lot of drama and a lot of politics. Later, I was out of the organization. And while getting out, somebody said, why don't you, you're a wonderful facilitator. Why don't you do something, where you can get yourself trained under transaction analysis? TA allows you to sort of, build networks, build rapport, and, like possibly know how to run say, facilitation in a particular space. And a certification always helps. So I tried to get into an organization that was doing TA. And I found them online called Navgati. So I did my ACC training with them. But when I called them TA 101, that's the basic TA course, was not available. They said there's something else coming up. It's a 3 months program. It's a certification space. Would you like to try it? I said, I'm quitting in just another 2 or 3 days. I have to tell my family that I'm doing something worthwhile. Otherwise, they'll be like, oh, what the hell is this person doing? Yeah, I enrolled myself, invested around 1.5 lakh, and said, yeah, I'm going to be a coach. And I thought this was same as mentoring. Turns out coaching and mentoring are two different things. I found out on day one of sitting in the class saying, hey, mentoring and coaching are two different things. But then I think coaching opened a very new door for me in terms of what all were my experiences. And I thought for the first time, I think I have come to a place or something has come to me that I've been waiting for the reminder of until now, whatever I've been waiting for. I think this solves something that has been missing in my life for a very long time. And it's a place where I can make money, I can make meaning, and I have a purpose. And that's ikigai at one place. And so I decided to get into a sector where I had no godfathers, grandfathers, godmothers, and I was, I don't know if you're able to see our dragon here. So I was a lonely dragon in a very different city. I didn't know anybody in the coaching sector, and slowly built it up to a point where I have, in the last 1.5 years is when I got into coaching. 2022, August is when my coaching journey began. And the more I got into coaching, I think the more I loved it. So loved it so much that within the first 3 months of even before the official 64 hours of coach training was done, I had 100 hours in my kitty. So I said, but I shouldn't waste time. I should get my ACC as soon as possible. So 64 hours are done today, and then my 100 hours were done. And I said, let's start mentoring. And that's when I found out, mentoring has to be done for 3 months overall because they want to see your journey mapped. So my mentoring happened, then my sister's marriage happened, and then my brother's marriage happened. And then I applied to my ACC with about 170 hours in my kitty. And then, essentially, and I passed the ICE for the first time, the first attempt itself. And then essentially, people were like, ACC is not enough. You should do something else. And I had quit my job, 6 months of no money, 6 to 8 months of no money, marriage in the house and stuff like that. So my uh, amount of funds I had was not the greatest of funds. So I said, I dropped a message to around 10 to 15 people saying, hey, everybody is saying PCC should be done. I haven't any idea what PCC is all about. So I made a few phone calls and people said PCC is going to definitely be a skill set addition. And organizations now are saturated with ACCs. They're definitely going to look at PCCs. So you should do PCC, and essentially, like, a lot of things that got settled with life. Coach Arya's program came along. I did my PCC training with Coach Arya. And I said, let me try and finish this in a year. So within 363 days of my first encounter with coaching, I had finished my 500 hours. So I decided in the beginning of May last year that there are 250 hours to be completed and less than 2.5 months to go before I finish 1 year of getting into coaching. The 2.5 months was absolute crazy mayhem. I did a lot of sessions and yeah, finished 500 hours by around 363 days. So it's a matter of pride for me to say, I did it in this way. And then PCC recordings got cleared, applied again for the ICE and finished the ICE. So by May, I had written my ACC ICF credentialing exam. And then my October, I had written my PCC credentialing exam. And both sides, I had, I think, finished first in the first attempt. So anything above 460, you're a pass, 460 out of 600. So it doesn't matter how much more you get, as long as your 460 is there, you're passed. And then, you just want to celebrate after that. And there were a lot of people who had said IC is one of the most notorious exams. XYZ has failed. It was tough and all that. So I found it to be not necessarily the most easiest exams, but I definitely didn't really understand the hype around what made it so difficult. So I just breezed through that. And then somebody said, why don't you create your own group of coaches that need reciprocal coaching, that need possibly some this thing. So in between all of this, somewhere in January 2023, me and another friend, Yashaswini, so both of us are on a PCC journey. We decided that we can be sort of coaches who can help other coaches in their journey towards ACC or even in terms of the skill set updation by starting like a triad based stuff. So observer coaching is what we called it. So we had around 50 to 60 sessions twice a week we met. So we had a fantastic learning both for us in terms of our own observational radars, markers, coaching nuances, different spaces, and more the answers we were able to give and the experiences we had. We were able to sort of build ourselves into very strong mentors. And that's how mentor coaching came to me. And until then, I didn't really know what mentor coaching was, except for the 10 hours that I had for my ACC and PCC. And in that, I personally felt that my blind spots were not really recognized, except for saying, oh, you'll pass the exam and not pass the exam. So there was a need, and we found that we could service the need, and that's how things happened. And yeah, I think it was, I don't know how many of you find it easy to get your 100 hours, 500 hours. So if you find it easy, just raise your hand. And so I will then not answer the next set of questions. But if you find it not easy, then yeah, I think if you want me to answer that question as to how I did my 500 hours in less than a year, just again possibly raise a hand, thumbs up, or even come on video so that I know, okay, this is interesting for you. So yeah. So I think there are quite a few people who find it difficult. So one of the first things that I did, thank you everybody, thank you for letting me know. Ramona, I'm assuming it's for just a hand raise and not like a question. If you have a question, just unmute yourself and ask. So It was easy, I think, pretty easy. I had possibly a lot of things that were working for me. I had a 1,500 plus network even as I quit my job, and about 3,500 followers on LinkedIn, like a truckload of relatives and a truckload of friends, right? So I had a network coming in. I am an introvert and an extrovert and an ambivert, depending on which space of people you meet. If you meet me with relatives, I'm very introvert guy. I'm a very silent guy. But if you meet me with friends, I'm an ambivert, I'm an extrovert with a lot of other places. So why extrovert, why introvert is one of the things that I've been say, I've heard is it's easy for you because you're an introvert. But I'm selectively introvert, selectively extrovert, depending on the people that are out there. So even as an introvert, it may not be that difficult for you if you use this strategy. One of the first things that I found was in the first space itself. So we were a cohort of 15. So the first task was to get to know each other. The first 2 weeks, I got to know them. Then there was a WhatsApp group that they had, in terms of other people who had also done it. And I'd actually quit my job. One of the easiest things that had happened was I'd quit my job. I had nothing to do. And I came from a background of working as a technical guy whose day began at 9:30 in the morning and finished almost at 7:30 in the evening. So while coming, it was almost like 7 o'clock I get up, go towards the office, 9 o'clock I come back from office, right? So for me to say one day I'm having 2 coaching sessions was like a nightmare because I don't know what to do for the rest of the times. So and it was so fascinating, this space of coaching, listening, possibly making impact, asking questions, not answering, not getting into say mentor mode. So I think I had a fantastic set of teachers, Sunita as well as Piyush. So it was beautiful to get into the space and first started with my first cohort, then with the others and other cohorts that were part of the same organization. And then essentially then moved from there to somewhere around 60, 70 hours I did it from them. And then I had a timetable saying I need to finish this in 3 months. So if I have to finish 3 months, 100 hours, then it almost boils down to, say, even if I'm doing a 20, 30 and 50. So in case of 3 months, the first will be very difficult to get 20 people. Then it's easier going to get the 30. And then by momentum, it's going to be easier to get the next 50. So that's how I divided it. And then it was then a track record, track saying if I have to get 20 in a month, then it's almost like 5 in a week. If it's 5 in a week, it's almost very simply 1 a day, right? So 2 hours a day is what I was initially investing. And then, if you're serious about coaching, you'll always find other people who are also serious about coaching. They will reach out to you. And then I also had journey-based coachings with a few people saying, let's do 5 sessions, 6 sessions together. And then since I was completely unoccupied in terms of, like a office-based space, I had a few women who had actually taken a career break. They were looking for enabling the hours for themselves, get more experience, coach more. So there are 2 or 3 people that we had saying, we'll do 5 or 6 sessions. We used to meet consistently, and then my hours kept on increasing. And and then there were different groups that I became a part of. And then even there, I did my calendar, wrote, and I think even I got into calendaring only after after finishing my hours of 100. So prior to that, I had hardly, any need of a calendar. Every Saturday, every Sunday, I used to write on my WhatsApp status at that point, saying I am open for coaching from 9:30 in the morning to around 8 o'clock in the evening. If anybody is interested, write me a message. So my friends then used to drop me a message saying, what is coaching? So what are you doing? Right. So somewhere very simple curiosity with a simple WhatsApp message, no money spent, like just putting it there. And then people were responding saying, what's coaching? And it was very difficult to explain to them what coaching was, because then coaching still is not a so easily understandable word as much as is it for mentoring or consulting or say tuitions or say somebody who is a sports based coach, right? So It's a very different atmosphere in India. And to get into coaching, so I'm not from a corporate, you're still coaching. Am I still good to be coached? How much are you charging? So I initially said, I'm not charging you anything. All you have to do is, if you find it interesting, write a review for me on LinkedIn, Google, etc., etc., or even send a text message. And then essentially, I will use that as a testimony, removing your name. So I was getting testimonies added to sort of, like make more people interested in seeing what's this coaching all about. And then it became a rolling effect. So it was like that. And a few coaches also, said, oh, my friend is also looking to get coached. Possibly, can you coach him, etc., him, her, etc. And I said, yeah, why not? So I never said no to any coaching. And I was not bothered about what was a niche even until say 200 or 250 hours. And I think then I decided saying, I will go nicheless, but go on a specialization. But I think I'll come to that a little later. So one was WhatsApp statuses. I did a poster. So poster that could have been, very easy to make. So I went to Canva, made a poster, went to LinkedIn, made a blog post. The same blog post was also on medium.com. So that anybody asks what coaching is, just share it with them. And then I called at least 20 to 25 of my friends, wrote a standard message saying, can I have 15 minutes of your time? And then wrote a message to 15, 16 friends of mine saying, I want you to help me here. I will not charge you for coaching. I need 1 hour of your time per week, possibly on a weekend. And then, I don't know how it will help you, what will help you, but I need practice. And I am told by others that will help you. And I know how to start, even though you don't know where to start, how to start. I will take you through the process. If you trust me, come along. Right. So I think I got about 15, 16 people. And then 3 months in, almost on the verge of around 70 hours ish, 2.5 months in, almost on the verge of 70 hours. We have in November. So I'm from the southern part of India, and southern part of India, specifically Karnataka and specifically Bangalore. And Karnataka has a mother tongue, or like a lot of us here speak Kannada. And in that space, I asked around saying, is anybody coaching in Kannada? And it's my mother tongue. I can talk about it at any point of time. And I said, I asked around, nobody was coaching in Kannada. And then there was this very curious idea in my head saying, do these questions change if I am doing it in a vernacular language? And that was a trigger for me to experiment with the vernacular. And so I was able to get to some of my friends who may not have had the most greatest of conversational English. And I also figured out a crazy niche for myself at that point, because none of the coaches that I knew had anyway moved out of possibly relationships, possibly leadership coaching. And there were a few wellness coaches, but that was it. Leadership, right? Nothing else. Executive presence, leadership, like all jargons that was said, leadership, right? So nobody had done coaching in Kannada. And I said, oh, I'll coach in Kannada. Then possibly also Hindi also became another regional language that I sort of brought into. So I was able to coach in 3 languages, Kannada, English, and Hindi. So I had access to 3 sectors of people who were now my clients. Were they ideal? I don't know. But were they giving me an experience that, I was able to experiment with? Absolutely. Were they getting something out of coaching? I think they found coaching easily. I said 3 sessions is on the house. If you want to do more than 3, you have to pay. And I had hardly $3 or €3 per session initially. Then you don't have to pay much. You'll have to pay me because it's a respect for coaching and a respect for my time and your time. So let's get on with this. So that's how I had about 100 hours in less than 3 months. And then from 100 to 500 was just amplifying on the same journey. So then I was part of other WhatsApp groups, and the other WhatsApp groups gave me access to possibly people from all other countries. And then I said, okay, I can actually work with people from different cultures. So I was coaching people in Egypt, possibly coaching people in Pakistan, a lot of these people from Saudi, Vietnam, Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, I think those were generally places, then possibly even in Africa, like mostly South Africa, then Spain. So I was being exposed to how people from different cultures view coaching, the same competencies, how they're viewing it. So that was also an exposure for me. So then 3 sessions, 4 sessions with them, also talking to more and more people. The first people who I had given free coaching for or pro bono coaching for, they were coming back again, and then they were referring other friends, and there were testimonials being organically generated, and it was a breeze to get to the 500 hours, and then 250 hours in 3 months is what I said. So I made a deal with 5 to 6 coaches saying I will coach you for 3 months, and after 3 months when my 500 hours are done, and I don't have to be the coach for the sake of the hours, then you can be I will be your client for 3 months. We will, how many hour sessions you want to take away from me, that's up to you. It's 3 months slot. I give you 3 months, you give me 3 months first. And that worked out like a charm. So I had 6, 7 sessions per client, who was my peer. And then that came in. And then through the course of this, I also experimented with my other passion, which was creative writing. And I said, how can creative writing can be brought into coaching? How can that awareness come in board? So that also was integrated into coaching. So I could now coach in 3 languages. I could coach with a new paradigm of creativity in coaching, bringing in, say, creative writing aspects and tools into coaching. And then that also became a workshop that I could then take to other coaches and get paid for it. Remember, I had no money in my bank coming in that says, Sunil, fantastic, we'll pay you until, you get your job. So I was out of a job, which was then enabling me with that inner fire to say, run for it. I had time, and I was using the time in this particular methodology, working with completely new experiments. And then also working with, this space where I said me and a friend started to build on the observer coaching space. So we were on our way to PCCs. We were learning new competencies. We were learning competencies newly, as in like it was put in a new light. It was not competencies newly. So competency in a new light, we were able to sort of then say, ask questions differently, go to the who of the person, and even in my training days, post the training, it was almost as if I'd learned a lot of things on my own. Failed, learned. Um, I didn't see the markers until I went to mentor coaching. Like I said, 120 hours already done. I didn't know what markers were. But when I went and gave it to my mentor, he's like, you've hit 80% of your markers that ACC needs. It only needs these refinements. That's it, you're done. Right. So I didn't know too much of my blind spots, but my blind spots were very clearly seen based on how my question was landing with the client. So I was able to read the client. That also helped me run my own, say, workshop that I don't know how many of you attended yesterday, around how to read the read the client on the other side, and not make assumptions, not make pre-processing stuff. So how to stay completely in the present, how to stay non-judgmental and all that. A lot of these were textbook definitions. So textbook definitions, I had to make my own definitions of all of this, saying, hey, this is what it is, and run it in a session, possibly experiment in sessions in terms of like metaphors, similes, words, numbers, other aspects, and then possibly also challenge the client, with permission, of course. So this had also happened without formal PCC training, and then we were able to then bring it to a space with training. It also became a lot more amplified, saying whatever I was doing has some backing, has some data around it. So it became a validation of the stuff that I was doing. And then we were able to bring in more coaches into the fold, start building a community of our own. And then slowly it came to that place where at any point of time, if I say I am free, within the next 5 minutes, my calendar was already booked. So if you have a problem that says, I am a working professional, I don't get enough time to sort of make my numbers right. So if you are going for your ACC, it's a lot more easier. PCC will be slightly a different ballgame. Can you spare 2 hours a week for yourself? So if you're able to spare 2 hours of time for yourself, you're in a corporate, it makes it even more easier. work with people in your team or somebody from another team. So you have ready access to a network. And I think if I was at a corporate when I got into coaching, I think I would have had anyway easily around 2000 hours by now. Right. So you have access to people in your network who may not be your direct subordinates or direct in the same line of command. So know your friends, you can actually get there. You don't have to do peer coaching. So you're only spending 1 hour. And then you can possibly go ask your HR saying, I'm a coach. I can coach people from another department, another team. And then if they allow you, it's even more easier. So all you need one message from your HR and people are ready. You can use your LinkedIn to say, I'm a coach. I am available on Saturday, Sunday, 2 hours. And anybody can jump on board. This is my calendar, book and jump on board, right? So 2 hours is easy. So that's 8 hours a month. And then if you are to get to 100, that's 12 weeks. So, 12 months. So within a year, you have 100 hours. And then if you're able to say put 4 hours, then automatically comes down to 6 months. If you're able to put, say, 1 hour a day, right? Morning 1 hour, evening 1 hour. I know of a coach who finished a 500 hours by almost diligently 5 days a week. Monday, 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the morning, she does one coaching session. Evening, 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the evening, she does one. And then it's with 5 people, so they're reciprocating in between. So in 1 week, she has 10, she has 5 sessions where she is the coach, right? And 5 sessions where she's the client. So per week, 5, 20 weeks, 100. Pretty easy. So even if you're working with just 20 people, 5 hours, 100 hours. And can you not think of convincing 20 people in your network to try coaching for free? Ask them for ₹1, $1, €1, £1, blah, 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 for 5 sessions. It's still paid coaching. Ask them for a book in return, ask them for a recommendation, ask them for a review. You're organically building your brand along with building your hours. Do not look at 100 hours, 500 hours, 2,500 hours, saying I need to finish 200 hours because the ICF said 100 hours is required for ACC. Look at 100 hours, 500 hours, 2,500 hours as your turf where you want to practice and get to a point where by 500, by 100, by 2,500 is you are a good coach. You're a seasoned coach with all things working perfectly well. I have a question, not easy, but possible. Yeah. Pro bono, so Ramona is this all pro bono will get the required number of hours. We need a combination of both paid. Yeah. So paid is coming from, you can't do all 100 hours of pro bono coaching. You can't do all 500 hours of pro bono coaching. But the definition of paid is that it's a barter. So if my friend says, I will buy you a coffee for 5 hours of coaching, or I'll get you a book for 5 hours of coaching as a return space, or I'll write you a recommendation for your coaching if I like it, then I still paid. There's some level of bartering. If they take you out for lunch, it's still paid. If they pay you in money, that's still paid. If they pay you in something else, that's still paid. If it's peer coaching, it's paid. So your peer coaching is 70%, 75 and 25, if I remember right, the general requirement from the ICF. And if you do all 100 hours of paid, I don't think there's a problem. So you don't need to do all 25 75 and 25 pro bono. Not really in the institute. So if say, for example, you're learning in the 60 hours, your mentor at that point, or trainer at that point asks you to be a coach in that session. And you complete some part of it. I didn't consider it to be part of my log of the hours, but I consider it as part of my general coach experience. I don't put it in the log. Whatever I put it in the log is peer coaching, coaching friends, coaching people from the network. And then that's about it, peer and friends and others, right? So that basically was it. Whether there was an actual exchange in terms of money. So if you're only saying, oh, I need to get paid in terms of money, then how does a person who doesn't know what coaching is, who doesn't know your skill set as a coach, how do they trust you? So you will have to give some leeway. We were saying, okay, I'll give this to you as pro bono. Right? So you don't give me in terms of money. But then possibly can you write a review? Can you write, can you, maybe possibly share this with your friends that there's Sunil and he does coaching. I did that. This was my experience. So that was paid.
Oh. Can I rephrase this just to get some clarity? I've got what you said, but for the institute to consider the number of hours, say 100 hours for ACC or 500 for PCC, for that, a percentage of it, they expect it to be like a paid coaching, right? Not all of it can be pro bono, right?
Not all of it is pro bono, right? Absolutely.
So, otherwise they won't accept it, right? They will say this
Correct.
is not acceptable. You
Correct.
need some kind of like you said, a recommendation or a letter. Say if you're in a corporate, you can get your HR or your leaders to give you a letter saying this person has done 50 hours of coaching in our org.
Correct.
That qualifies, right? But
Correct.
if you
Correct.
don't have access to something like that, and if you're coaching, like you mentioned, this coffee and all, so is it like they give you a letter saying ABC coached me for
Yeah.
5 hours, and all that. That would
Yeah.
suffice, right?
So you write them an email, you write
Mm-hmm.
your client an email that this, email is that we've had 5 coaching sessions from date to, start date to end date. Kindly acknowledge that I have been your coach with XYZ number of sessions. And, this has been a paid conversation with XYZ amount of money. So we
Sure.
consider it as a paid coaching. So you paid for it. So
Okay.
how they paid for it could be in different ways, but they send an acknowledgement that for you is a clear space saying, oh, it's been a paid coaching. That's
Okay.
one of the easiest ways to do it.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's about how to get your 100 hours. You can possibly just scale it to 500 hours. Talk to an NGO that you know of. Can they pay you in terms of enabling your can they pay you in money? But then if you're charging say $100 a session, can you do it for $1 a session? Because I had a catch. My first 100 hours or 150 hours, 6 months in, I'm not getting any money out of coaching. If I get credential, possibly I may be able to crack, say, some of the better up, etc., 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 as a space where I can get some stable amount of money. So for me, certification was important. So I had to speed up the number of hours. But in speeding up the number of hours, I was very, very, very clear with myself that I should not do it as just another hour. Just come there, do some coaching, ask some questions, and get away with it. I said 100 hours, 500 hours, 2500 hours, whatever it is my playground to be a coach. Not learn coaching, not do coaching, but be a coach. The differentiation between learning to be a coach, doing coaching, and say being a coach. So there's different levels of skill set mastery. So I have to work with a tough client. I've had racist clients on the other side. I've had clients from different demographies. I did teenager coaching, and I did coaching with young mothers. I did coaching with people who are on a career break. I did coaching with possibly women-only sectors. I did coaching with people from a particular demography, right? So, and I think another thing that I did that actually amplified my hours was to get off board in terms of peer coaching very quickly. And, sometimes also parallelly do peer coaching. So I did a pro bono coaching in the month of March, saying for Women's Month, I'm doing free coaching for women, or I'm not charging for women, but possibly all I need is a book, a recommendation, or 1 rupee or whatever, right? So 1 rupee for this conversation. And then a lot of people joined in who I never knew, and one of them incidentally joined to be get coached and see what coaching is. Then seeing the impact of what coaching is, she herself is a coach now. So she got trained, etc., etc. And she is now a coach by herself. Right. So it's a fantastic story there. And I continue to share inspiring stories about my clients with other friends. Anytime anybody comes and asks me, saying, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing this. And so at no point of time, leave an opportunity to find a client, whether it's a paid client or unpaid client. Don't miss an opportunity because it may be pro bono today, but then if your coaching is good and they like it, they like the chemistry of what coaching is, and you as a coach, they will come back to you for the rest of your life. So catch them as young as possible into your coaching business. So I'm sort of sharing all of this, I think, in a very non-linear format. I hope this is interesting and you're getting value out of this. So that was the 500-hour journey. That's also the journey of how I got into mentoring. That's also how I got into, say, bringing coaching and creativity together, working on a different different ball game. So in this particular pro bono space, it gave me around 45 hours in a month, right? And gave me access to 15 new people. Out of 15 new people, I think around 7 of them joined different other initiatives that I was running. So I do journaling, I do creative writing classes, I do public speaking classes. They came in for different things. So money was still flowing in without coaching by connecting with people who connected me through coaching. So I had made a very personal connect with all of them through coaching. It does happen, right? So if the client is opening other vulnerabilities, it becomes a very strong connection with them. And they have my number. I'm sharing something on my WhatsApp status. They see something and they respond to me. So it became a good friendship space. So it's again a cultural nuance. Maybe possibly it may not work in another cultural space. So they became almost as if some of them were championing me as a coach, right? So it became word of mouth based marketing. And then slowly money started to trickle in. Then mentor coaching became a space where post PCC mentor coaching became an official space where I could charge and officially give somebody saying, hey, this person has been mentored by me. And then these observational classes became a space. So I said, if I am doing an observation class with say go in today, go in as the coach, somebody else is the client. And then they do coaching for about 40 minutes. And I tell them saying, these are places where you possibly need some level of feedback, and this is what I would do in this session. So at that point of time, uh, prior to PCC happening, I did it for about 50 hours. So I knew I was good at sharing observations, going to the right competencies, bringing up the markers, coaching beyond markers, using silence, how to work with tough clients, what to do when the client is stuck. So all of these were places that I was good at because I'd used the 500 to its maximum learning potential. Then everything was maximizing on that potential. And so mentor coaching became an absolutely natural space for me to do that. So we go in this here today and go in, I do an observation class. If anybody is open, so we have about 120 coaches in our group. If going to come back, it's almost 120 months, almost. So what if we do a program that says for about 8 weeks, 4 of you will be a part of a paid cohort. You will get 100% access to me as a coach during at that point. We will talk about coaching, building up your business, your skill set and competencies, and clearing the IC exam. So that became a space where I was able to make some amount of money through that while adding value to coaches who have done a 60 hours or 120 hours. The training organization that they've done with, is already concentrating on the next batch of people, right? So there's nobody that's coming into this sector, wherein a lot of coaches have done training, have nobody to sort of help them, guide them in the next way forward. I knew so many coaches who didn't know what contracting was even after 125 hours of coach training. And they also were still mentoring after their ACC recording got cleared. So the recording is cleared. They are only bothered about making the hours count. They are not coaching, but they will still pass the IC and get an ACC. So overall, they had to be somebody that said, whatever you're doing is possibly in need of some level of repair. And then they were good people in terms of, saying they want to really get better at coaching. So they spend a lot of money to get coach trained. They get into getting a coach. They spend a lot of money on marketing, spend a lot of money on website. And then they come to a session and the client on the other side says, nah, I don't want you to be a coach. You to be my coach. I cannot pay you because you're not doing coaching. Or, I've already experienced coaching and whatever you're doing is really not up to the standard. I came here for something and you're giving me something else. Your entire ball game until now is gone, zero. Right? So negative review goes very quickly than a positive review. So I said, let's do something for people to improve their skill set, improve their competencies, and also get better at business. So there's a community where you can still get it without paying, but then your chance comes possibly, once a month, once a year, or even say once in 2 years. If you want to get better at your competencies and stuff, this is where you can come and get, maximum benefit. And that became another niche altogether. Until now, I've never bothered about my niche because I say I'm Nimma coach, and Nimma coach means your coach, be it leadership, mentoring, be it mentor coaching, be it leadership, be it mentor coaching, be it wellness, be it emotions, be it saying no to your coach, saying no to your boss, saying no to certain aspects, bringing in elements of transactional analysis into it, bringing elements of NLP into it. So I bring in different parts of stuff. I don't coach in one particular format. And I'm confident as a coach because in the 500 hours, I've said everything done. A lot of these experiments and experiences are there. I work with clients where they're completely stuck. I have a method to help them unstuck. I work with different clients from different geographies. In the same Indian demography, I work with people from different languages. And then I work with my friends. They're giving me testimonials. My clients are giving me testimonials. I have a singular page that explains what coaching is. So I can just simply share to my prospective clients, this is what it is. And then I've gotten on one-to-one calls with about 50, 60 people saying this is what coaching is and what coaching is not. And then essentially everywhere I go, I now go to marriages and functions and get-togethers only to push myself as a coach. To say, I'm not ashamed of this space. I don't have to hold back. Hey, I've quit my job. Because in India, there's a lot of this space saying, you should have a good job. And, people feel underconfident about freelancing. People feel underconfident about startups. So, you can actually put yourself out there saying, hey, I'm a coach. I know I'm a good coach because my skill set is good. My competencies are great. I know how to handle difficulties in a conversation. So your internal confidence gets to a place where you can host 13 sessions across the ICW. And I'm not a company that does coach training. I am not an MCC, but I'm confident enough to come here and put these things forward. So I've put in effort in that particular timeline. And that's why, it's easy for me to say, bring it on. I can coach anybody and everybody. So by coaching anybody and everybody in the first 100 hours, 500 hours, without not being bothered about how much am I making out of this, you are experienced. And by the time your PCC comes, you're ready to hit the road, or ACC comes, you're ready to hit the road. And then start charging premium. Because you have mileage under your belt, you're a good driver. And then you can get people from point A to point B. Not necessarily give advice, etc., but you get the metaphor. Makes sense. Makes it a little more easier process to handle rather than, like very abstract stuff. And personal branding. Personal branding goes without saying that it is a bare minimum necessity right now. Personal branding offline, personal branding online. So a lot of us don't do personal branding offline. Do we do personal branding offline is a question we ask ourselves. We're doing TikTok, we're doing Instagram videos, we're doing the stuff on LinkedIn, Facebook, what other sorts of companies, organizations or apps. But are we doing offline? Have we tapped into offline? Have we tapped into niches like teachers, NGO leads, policemen, lawyers, single mothers, single parents, single dads, dating, career advice, career coaching for somebody in their early 20s. These are niches that nobody in the MCC sector is looking at because this for them is not bigger ROI. But for you, it's an opportunity. And if you're getting into coaching as a space where you're already having a job, then you're trying to see what niche works for you. It's also a great place for you to experiment without having to look for money because again, if you're taking money, possibly it can be like a secondary job, etc., blah, blah, blah stuff. Can you get to a place where you're niching your way of work, you're confident that you're a good coach when you quit your job? In that, use your time in a way that is an experimentative learning. Yeah. There's another question around institute and barter. I'm not able to see it. Oh, okay. I think I've answered that. Anything else that you have as questions? I hope that I have inspired you with my journey. I think reliving my journey was inspiring for myself. So my takeaway from today's session is, a sense of pride, a sense of accomplishment, and possibly what I want you to take away is one possibility that it is possible for us to look at the hours as a learning experience, not just as a tick mark from the ICF looks at. It's also important for us to have fantastic mentors in our place, in the way of our journey, and it's scalable. Whatever doing is scalable, and once we're confident as coaches, not bloaty level confident, but we actually got time tested, time tempered by coaching, we're unstoppable. So you don't have to be intimidated by others in the network who are doing great coaching, who are getting paid crazily. It's just that you will also get paid, you will also have your own journeys, but you have to work for it. Are you working for it is also possibly another question you have to ask. And is that work visible? Are you visible out there? And if you're visible, is your work walking the talk? If it's visible and your work is walking the talk, you've cracked the code. Right. So I'm open to one or two questions if there are, and then we can close. And yeah, I think the next 1 hour is Khali, and then I have another session at 8 o'clock where I'll be talking about, in case any of you want to get my space, how I cleared the ICE twice. That's a space you can also hop onto. Right. So any other questions that you have? Any other, even say, even congratulations for me is also fantastic. So I love compliments. I don't mind people giving me compliments. And yeah, you can
Excellent.
ping me on WhatsApp. I've shared my number again.
Right.
Yes, go on.
You mentioned about mentor coaching, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, during our journey, completing this 500 hours, when would you recommend getting a mentor coach to develop ourselves?
So if you're looking at the official 10 hours of mentor coaching, that you basically take over, start taking, as soon as your training comes to around 90 hours of space, and you start, how do I say it? Start coaching at a generic level where you say, I'm able to hit the contract, I'm able to bring some level of reflection, and I'm able to close. So these three areas you're able to build, start getting mentored. So for ACC, ideally they say that somewhere around 35 to 50 hours, you start your mentoring. So it takes 3 months for you to finish your 100. Because mentor coaching has to happen over 3 months. So in 3, you're getting triggered. If you come around 80, 90, your style as coach is already set. Your muscle memory of coaching is set. It'll get very difficult for you to undo some of the things that may not be coaching at that point of time. So ACC is somewhere around 35 to 50 hour timeline. Get yourself started on mentor coaching. For PCC, currently the bigger problem with people who go directly to PCC is that the organization finishes the training in 3 months, 3 to 6 months. And then your mentoring has already happened in that place. Sometimes you've already cleared your recordings, but clearing your recordings, possibly you've done 100 hours of coaching. There's also mentoring needed from 400, from 100 to 500, which the organization will not provide, but you will have to invest in that mentor by around 200 hours, 200 to 250 hours, because the 300 to 350 onwards is just refining your skill. But
Okay.
150 to about 300 hours, get yourself a mentor there. Even if you've had a mentor in your 10 hours, that's already mandated by the ICF. already done as part of the training institute, because that's where your real questions will begin.
Okay.
And that's where your skill set will really get tested.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Also, I think you also mentioned right now that the ICF organization is directly giving the PCC. So actually, I have took that path. Like I completed my coaching training with ACC and directly to PCC without taking the ACC. Would you recommend that journey, or going directly taking the ACC certification and then go take the PCC?
It's your choice, right? So it's a choice that you have. Whether you want to start, because 500 hours, how you've paced it. Do you say 2.5 years, 3 years? Do you want to finish it, say 1.5 years? Do you want to finish it in a year? How much time do you have, right? So based on your time, you say, okay, if it takes you more than some people take 5 hours, 5 years. So depending on their bandwidth, context, etc. So for them, it makes sense that by the time they finish 100, they're at least one level certified. So an uncredentialed coach to a credentialed coach, the level of credibility is way higher than say an uncredentialed coach. So they take ACC. So for them, it's a slower part of a journey. So it depends on your journey. Because now you're already trained with ACC as well as PCC. It's your personal choice whether you want to go ACC certified or you want to wait and get PCC certified once. So if you're doing ACC certified as well as PCC certified, you have to pay exam fees twice. I think around $235 is not 200, sorry, 500 something dollars is the coaching fees, exam fees.
Okay.
So that was for the ACTP, but for ACHTH, so ACTP, you would have already paid for your ACC evaluation and ACC mentoring. So the next would be the exam, I think, which also is about $500-ish. I don't know how much you'll have to pay. $300 to $500 you have to pay again. Like it's an additional burden. So you will have to see whether that's a ROI that you have. Saying with an ACC, are you going to get clients? Without being credentialed, you're also getting clients. If somewhere your organization that is paying you needs you to be credentialed, so all of these.
So boil जो है ना थोड़ा सा निकाल देना इसमें, बाकी को तुम बनाना, ठीक है?
हाँ, so that's how it's your choice. You have to take these into consideration.
Okay. Thank you so much. May I ask a personal question also?
Sure.
So if you were to walk this path again with this experience that you currently have, what would you have done differently?
Possibly not too much differently in terms of the experimentational stuff, because I love experiments. So nothing new there in terms of different areas that I would have explored and said, hey, this is interesting. Personal branding, I think, has also been a tick mark. So what I would have done is also possibly additionally learn different modalities of work in terms of, say, NLP, in terms of CBT. And I think even maybe put myself out there to a even more international audience through ICW, and say, also reached out to clients outside of India with a higher frequency of work. That would have been a different this thing, but purely that's a commercial angle as maybe in a cultural learning angle. But otherwise, hardly any other foot different than whatever I have put here.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is like asking me, you've eaten dosa today. Would you have eaten anything else? I'm like, anything else, dosa is also fine. Any other dish, as long as it serves my hunger, I am fine. So I am that kind of a guy. So yeah, that's about it. So if there are no further questions, no further compliments, I will close the session. Cool then.